one thing that really stands out is the bullshit management.
This is an art. It is the art of doing things unrelated to what creates value. It consumes all of your time, but drains in your energy and you create no value. The more you do that, the less energy you have to create value. That's bullshit management. I'm trying to serve as many people as possible within a mission of untrap them, because what I realized throughout my life is reality sucks. It's not how you want. Expectation goes north, reality goes south. One of the things I wanted to drive with the book is a bias toward action.
The personality traits that helped you in getting where you are now. I was like, is this guy like really stubborn? Or does he has a lot of courage? Which
Hmm.
one is that?
A little bit. I think life is too short to do something that we don't like.
Hello, David. Today I have with me David, right? David Pereira. I always
Yeah.
forget if it's David or David because, I'm in Spain. So, and today we are going to talk about the famous book that just came out. So, welcome to the Agile State of Mind.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Very curious to talk to you about it.
Yes, I have so many questions you can imagine. So, but before we go into the book and our podcast today, I would like to first introduce you a bit. So, David Pereira is a product coach, a keynote speaker, and now an author of Untrapping Product Teams. You can find him. You are based in Munich, right, in
Yeah.
Germany. And where can we find you? Tell me a little bit where the viewers can find you after we finish the podcast so they can follow up and read your stuff.
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn, quite accessible there. And you can also find me on my website, the-pereira.com. So everything is there, lots of content and so on, some videos, some things. So
And
that's
you
it.
also do some cohorts and trainings, right? So tell
Yeah.
us about that. I think it's really important to know that it's not only the book that you can learn from, but you can really have access to David personally and join the cohorts.
Yeah, that's true. So I have been creating some content to help people, and I know that everyone consumes content from different ways. So I'm trying to serve as many people as possible within a mission of untrap them, because what I realized throughout my life is reality sucks. It's not how you want. Expectation goes north, reality goes south. You read the job description, you get excited, you go through the interview, you pass, you get the job, and then once you land there, oops, something is unexpected. That's reality. So what I try to do is let's face reality how it is. What can we do today for a better tomorrow? So I create courses, different ones, live ones, video. So you can find everything on my website.
That's great to know. So yeah, and I really recommend to check. We will have now a talk about the book and the content, so you will get to know what you can find in David's book and the cohorts. My biggest take from the book was that it provides context to what we think we know because we heard so many times, like outputs, like it's the other way around, outcomes over outputs, yay. And then at some and all the other stuff that we know, like you should do discovery, how to create good roadmaps and so on. But I feel that it's what you say, you get to the job, you think you know the theory, but then it's like nobody does it. And even if you want to start doing it, you don't even know how to start because it's like, and people are like, yeah, just stop telling me all the time about outcomes. I want to die. Because, it's more like, and it's like I was watching the other day somebody talking about user stories and slicing user stories. Like, you should slice user stories, it's good. Slice user stories, it's very good. You know that too big user stories are bad. And that's it. And like, yeah, I know. How do I do that? And I think your book is exactly that next step. How? You explain a lot of the how of things, and you also share your examples, how you did it in one job, in another job, with one product, with the other product. And it suddenly becomes like this aha moment. Okay, I can follow your steps and get there. I think this is the biggest point for me to reading the book.
I'm glad you got this one. One of the things I wanted to drive with the book is a bias toward action, because I have seen in many places exactly the conversation on what should we be doing, how do we set roadmap. Then I realized that many times we start talking about the work forever. We just talk about the work, but then I ask the question, who is actually doing the work? So I try to get the book to help people do the work. So you learn by doing, you don't learn by talking.
Yeah, and you provide a lot of very clear examples of that. And then I also learned about El Bulli. I never knew, and it's a guy from Barcelona, Ferran
Yeah,
Adrià, that that I didn't even know about it. So it also helps see that big companies or very famous people, they also struggle, and they also have to create this kind of journey for themselves. And one thing that really stands out is the bullshit management. I would like for you to explain it a little bit, because there is this the quote from you that I noted, which is, whenever you don't understand why you're doing something or don't see how that creates value, you're probably doing bullshit management. Tell us about that.
sure. So I have been in many companies so far. I think I work full time for 10 or 11 companies. And one thing that I realized over time is from software engineer, product manager, head of product, many times I was doing things because I had to do. But then when I stepped back, I said, why am I doing that? And I had no idea why. I said, this is not product management. And then I realized when I went to a different place and so on, I would do many things and I couldn't connect that to the big picture. But I was just attending meetings. I was just gathering requirements. I was just creating roadmaps, talking to people based on opinions and so on. I said, I need to give a name to that. It's super annoying. And I said, this is not product management. And I said, you know what? This is an art. It is the art of doing things unrelated to what creates value. It consumes all of your time, but drains in your energy and you create no value. And the result is the more you do that, the less energy you have to create value. I said, what is the name of that? I said, that's bullshit management.
Yeah, it makes sense. And even in my area, because you are more like on the product side, I'm more on the agile coach side. I also see that so much. Like, first of all, sometimes we get into the trap, and you are talking a lot about untrapping. So we get into the trap of, oh, everybody's doing that. This is the process. I need to be the guardian of the process. Like, but why are you asking this about for the teams? They already did, like, the outcome is there. Why are we still asking for the outputs? Or the other thing is, I love it when I see, like, it's not a review is not a demo is just a demo, and the sprint review, and then we stop. Like, we are talking bullshit here. It doesn't
Yeah.
provide any value. Well, we should just do something, help people understand what we produced in the best way so they can give feedback and we can move forward, right?
Yeah.
So I really, it resonates so much.
So it's a discussion that I see quite often. I think it's the wrong question that comes to place. I see a question really frequently. How can we do discovery with Scrum? And then comes another question. How do you combine strategy with Scrum? And then I say, wrong question. It's very simple. How do we do discovery? That's it. It doesn't matter if it's with Scrum or so, you can adapt. The question is, how do you do discovery? And then you need to know why. Discovery is all about uncovering what creates value. That's it. So you need to uncover what will create value. So you drop bad ideas fast enough, and then you can bet on the ones that look more promising. But people get so bugged with the framework, the work, and instead of using the framework to help them have good conversations, better collaboration, they use it as a limit. And then we start, that's not how you do Scrum. You should not have that. This is not allowed. Then say, okay, but what if we want to create value and that helps us? So we are gonna defend the framework for the sake of it?
True, and so that's a very good point, because I'm now thinking how many times we just think Scrum is there. So it is there. It has to be there. And now we have to do some other things that we want to do, but they have to somehow relate to Scrum because Scrum is there. Right? Or so yeah, that's interesting. And that's also something I shared with you before we came here, that I am thinking a lot about creating some cohorts as well, or a project where we go beyond the frameworks, because this is what is also trapping us right now. And do you see that as also a change? Like, I remember, because we both started in serious Scrum.
Yeah.
Serious Scrum, right? It wasn't
Uh-huh.
serious Agile, it was serious Scrum. So we were writing a lot about how to do Scrum well and all. And as I started my channel by talking about that, and I think you also started your articles by that, right? And now I feel like it's like through Harry, like we had to understand what Scrum is, and but now I think we are mature enough as big tech crowd or tech crowd. We already know what Scrum is, so it's time to move from Shu, where we follow the rule, to like Re or even How, where we break the rule and create our own rule. Do you see that as well?
Yeah. What I have been thinking is, what is the challenge of creating digital products? And in the beginning, I used to think the challenge was to find the right framework and make that thing work so we could create value. That was what I thought in the past. Today, I just think it's all about people and collaboration. And there are some elements that need to be in place so we have higher chance of
Mhm.
succeeding. And it's kind of, where do we want to be? What is the goal we are pursuing? And then how do we get there? But before you answer how you get there, you need to understand where you are. So you start collaborating towards it. And I see frameworks as a means to an end. The idea of a framework is to prepare the room for a sharpened, let's say, conversation. So we look at a problem from different angle and we bring the right elements for our conversation. And what is the result? Better decisions. That is the result we want. And we want to ensure we progress. But turns out that it's not black and white. Places are different. Some complexities will arise from things totally unexpected. And then you need to deal with that. So it might be that the framework will block you, and yet you have to deal with this. So it's the moment that we should ask the question, how do I deal with that? Instead of adding, how do I deal with that with framework ABC? That's where it gets really tricky. So now we are in the moment of we go beyond frameworks. We start by looking at what we want to achieve, and then you can say, okay, what could help us achieve that? Because before it was like, we want to be agile, let's deploy Scrum. So that
Mhm.
that was our previous thought, I would see in many companies, but now it's changing. Not everywhere, but still changing.
Yeah, I love it that you mentioned precisely the same thing that I came to. Like I'm thinking to create something around the collaboration and also beyond the framework, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, we spoke about them so much. People are really tired of even listening. Like, oh, you already want to do something. You already want another meeting. So yeah, I think it's really that. And I actually wanted to ask something, that when I was reading your book, so I want to move to, I have a bunch of questions around the personality traits that helped you in getting where you are now. Because when I was reading your book, and I was like, is this guy like really stubborn? Or does he has a lot of courage? Which one is that? Because I'm thinking that there are many people, and we, as I said at the beginning, we know it's outcomes over outputs. We know it should be where we want to go over the outputs that we want to create. But few people take this step and say, no, I will not do this because I don't believe this is a good idea. We should move there. We should do that instead. Well, there are a lot of people that just say, I hate Scrum. I hate Safe. I don't like this. But they never give you the, okay, if you don't like this, what's your, what would you do instead? What's your idea? What's your solution to that, right? So we have either people who are like, yeah, I don't like it, but I don't care, or others that are very vocal to say, I don't like it, but they never give you what instead. And you are this person that you can see how many times you said no and you actually tried to find out a different, better way to do things. So are you too stubborn?
A little bit, yeah. But it's kind of, I think life is too short to do something that we don't like. So when I go to work, I want to connect what I'm doing to something that is valuable. So if I see that I'm doing something that actually I don't believe to be valuable, I start challenging and I start trying to figure out how to change it. Because in general, I see everyone can drive change in their scenario. It depends how you position. It depends how you talk to people. Because I been in different situations. I've been in the automotive industry, public sector, private, and many, many things. And all the place I could drive some level of change by showing a genuine intention of helping. So when you really care about the end result and you have the intention of helping, you just need to get a few supporters. And then someone will support you, and then you start getting people who want to see the change. And that's all you need, a few supporters, and then you start doing things differently. Because I don't say like everything we're doing is wrong. I look at, say, hey, I think I found an opportunity here. Maybe we could do it better. Maybe we could get to the result faster. Or maybe there's something here. If we do, we're going to face some painful results. Do you want that? So I
Mhm.
collaborate. And what I try to do is to help the other see what I'm seeing.
How do you do that? Because that's precisely, when I'm thinking about it, I feel people might think, oh, if I say no and if I object to the current version, people will say I'm difficult. Or, oh, how do I do it? Because people, usually it's where your frustration is built up so much that instead of productively and object coming and saying, hey, I think we could do it in a different way, in a nice way, it's like, it is terrible, and they come with the build up frustration and they just like, and it just creates friction. So how
Yeah.
do we do that to prevent that friction from happening?
The first thing is finding common ground. So whoever you are talking to, most probably you have something in common. All stakeholders, they pressure for something because they want the result.
Mm-hmm.
And you also want the result. We all want the product to be successful. Stakeholders are not playing against the product. They may be pushy or something like that. So try and find what is the common ground we have and start the conversation from there. And then use facts. One of the things that I had, there are two things. One is you can go in a factual conversation if you feel like it's going to happen. For example, someone is pushing for an output. Just look at everything that was created over the last 6 months and say, hey, we created loads of stuff over the last 6 months. And what happens is 50% of them are never used. Is
Mm-hmm.
that what we want? Do we want to keep creating things that 50% of them are just not used? Because maybe we could do something different. So you have this conversation, help them see that there is something wrong. So you ask
Mm-hmm.
question, and generally I like asking a question that the answer is a no. Like, do you want to deliver features nobody use? Obvious, the answer is no. But if
Oh,
you
I
ask this
think you
question,
read the split.
yeah,
Was
that's from the never split the difference, and that helps quite a lot. I love using those
Mm-hmm.
techniques because then people step back. But there is
But
another thing you can do, which is showing vulnerability. Not everyone is brave enough to do that because maybe you show a sign
mm-hmm.
of weaknesses. One of the things that happened when I was young, was very fresh to product management. I think it was 2 years after being the role. I was panicking. Everyone wanted everything by yesterday. Sales wanted something, operations wanted another, customer service wanted another, and logistic wanted something, and I simply didn't know what to do. My initial strategy was the classic. Do a little bit of everything for everyone. Then as a result, you try pleasing everyone, you please no one. So once I said, guys, I need you. We need to have a conversation here. We went all to a meeting and I said, I believe I'm failing my job. Simple because I don't know how to prioritize. Then I look at one. You are asking me to do this. You are asking me to do that. You are asking me to do this. And I simply cannot understand what is most important for the company because all of you go to me and you say what you have is the most important. And there's only limited capacity we have to create something. And if I try doing what I've been doing for the last 1.5 years, we're not going to get anywhere. In the short term, looks good. You see something coming, but nothing of relevance. I said, I need your help so we figure out what makes most sense for the company, not only for one department or not only for my team. Then once I showed that and I said, I'm failing my job, there were two stakeholders that immediately said, just remove my requests. They are irrelevant based on what I heard here. Then we started having a conversation. So these are things that I learned. Help them see the problems you have. And if you don't know how to do something, what about telling them?
Yeah, which is not such a popular option for people, right? To admit you don't know or to admit you are lost. So that's why I'm saying it really takes a courage. And I was once thinking also about the values, like we usually typically use in Agile, we use the Scrum values, and one of those values is courage. And it's
Yeah,
such an important one. Like you can't succeed if you don't say no to something.
you can't. And what I learned is in the end of the day, we are working with people. People have feelings.
Oh,
And if you
yes.
can empathize and they can connect with you as a human, things go better. One of the aspects I never cared in my whole life was about hierarchy. And I was never afraid to talk to the CEO of the company or to whoever it is. Even when I was like a software engineer and there were 6, 7 layers up me, I would talk to anyone the same because we are people. So it's like, of course, I would respect everyone and understand the decision power, but you shouldn't change who you are in front of the others. Just be yourself, show vulnerability, and things flow if you can be yourself.
Yeah, I guess. And you talk about that in the book, right? When you get to the staying untrapped,
Yeah,
about the human part, and that we sometimes tend to forget. And I think that's a very big learning. Like, be yourself, don't try to fit and adjust depending on what you talk to. And it's really hard. You feel like I see so many people telling me, "Oh, you don't talk to that person. He's a very important person." I'm like, "Yeah, why I can't talk to that person?" So I think we have this. This is again how we can untrap ourselves, not only in the product world, but even in our own perception of
yeah,
reality, right?
exactly.
And so yeah, that's interesting, and I think you give a lot in the book of like advice and examples of the fear of saying no and how to, what you just said, make your problem their problem, and then they can help you solve it, or how to make a hippo listen to you. So those are all the good advice that you can find. And then there is one more thing that really caught my attention. And I used to think it is a good thing, but I couldn't. It's about the failure avoidance. And
Uh-huh.
it's about how many times we just by default, okay, we now need to do a root cause analysis. How do we not make the same mistake again? Tell me about that. I really loved how you explained the other way of looking at things.
Yeah, the thing about failure, what I see a lot is I love the book The Invincible Company from the Strategizer. There's a quote there from Alexander Ossowald. If I remember
Mhm.
correct, is avoid big failures or you're dead. Embrace small failures or you're dead. So the thing is you need to embrace small failures, but there's a taboo. In Germany, for example, simply don't talk about failures. I remember interviewing product managers here, and I would ask, can you share with me a failure that you contributed to and what you learned from that? The person would freeze. And the person would tell me, well, we don't fail in Germany. At least we don't talk about it. And I was looking at this. But what I say is, if you try avoiding failure as a byproduct, you kill innovation because you cannot innovate without failing. Because innovation means you try something different times and then you learn from mistakes and then you uncover your unknowns because you simply don't know what you don't know. And you will only uncover that if you hit reality, and that means failing.
Mm.
And if you want to innovate, you need to fail fast and quick and learn. The question is, how do you fail if people don't want to fail? It depends on the culture. So what I like saying is, what if we do something like an experimentation? Let's say we run an experiment and the experiment has a result. We learn. The experiment will either go well or it will prove it didn't work. That's it. So let's make gradual experiments so you justify investing further or not. And what changed my mind a lot about failures was one of the events I had in one startup. It was already a scale up. One of the founders noticed that actually we were not talking about failures and we were avoiding it. And without intention, everyone was trying to, something goes wrong, then you tighten up a process here. You make something here to avoid. We discuss about avoiding. So this founder said, you know what? I'm going to create an event. And he called the Fuck Up Night. He said, the goal of the Fuck Up Night is to talk about learnings from failures. And he started there. And I remember when he stood in front of everyone and he said, the reason I'm here today, it is because I failed 3 startups. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Here's what I learned. And then he started sharing his learnings. And I remember he was very humble. He said, my first startup, I focused on building the product and then go to the market. He said, wrong. First you go to the market, then you build the product incrementally. He said, the second startup, I delayed acquiring revenue. I thought it would be fine. I was looking into freemium business model and so on, but turned out that some people were just not willing to pay for that. And then he shared and he kept sharing. And then he said, now I want you always to ask a question when things go wrong is, what do I learn from that? Ask that for yourself and then share with the others. So that changed my perspective quite a lot.
Yeah, and I remember I also was in a company where the manager, the engineering lead, was doing that. And it was so normal for us. And he would start with his failures and then he will ask, is there anyone? And then people would stand up and say, hey, this is my failure of the week. And yeah, and now I think it was so long ago, and I still can't believe that now we are again in this root cause analysis. But how would you? Okay, we try. I agree. We need to, especially. I think this is a culture of the company because we go to this all hands, right? And it's all flowers. It's all so beautiful, so colorful. It's always a win. And then you are thinking, we had layoffs. Why is this a flower power, super
Mm-hmm.
cool? So I think this really needs to come from above.
In
You
it.
can't have it from, like, you can try to do it bottoms up, but I think it's really important that the people at the top of the company, they should also say, hey, we failed, we did
Yes.
this, it wasn't good.
There's the attitude, and there's another thing, which is what the leaders tolerate becomes the norm. So
Oh.
if they tolerate people behaving with failure avoidance, like approach, so to say, then that will become the norm because they see that happening and they let that happen. So if they want to change, they should lead by example. And that's how it works. And this helps when the leaders are humble enough to go in front of one and say, I did something wrong, and here's what I learned. And to make it vivid as possible, you need to understand the culture. Here in Germany, for example, if you want to learn from failures, one thing is you can use the word experimentation, or you can use risk. You can say, how can we de-risk our ideas? And if this is a sentence that Marty Kagan says a lot, de-risking ideas, in Germany that lands because Germans want to avoid risk. And actually, when you say fail fast, it is about de-risking your idea. You start just asking the question, will customers understand how to use it? Will they choose to buy it? Will we be able to collect any kind of value from it? And then you say, how can we do something very fast to learn from that? We were talking before our recording here, and when I put my cohort live, actually I didn't spend that much of time thinking, oh, is this the perfect landing page? Should it be like that? It took me half an hour to put the landing page. And after talking to some people, I just put there and I put a payment method. So will people choose to buy? Some people decided to, some not. But I could see that some people would buy. So I could invest more time making it better. But first I said, let's just see how
Yeah.
people react. So that is what is failure. And there was another cohort that when I put live, during the first 2 days, no conversion at all. So the message was for sure unclear, but I learned, I improved, and then started converting.
That was also part of the things that I learned from your book, because I was always like, I love this discovery and like creating strategy and helping leaders in the company to do that, because that's what we need to do. And I think I felt like I know the lean canvas, I know that, but I didn't know, like, okay, can somebody guide me through the journey of from not having anything to actually
Uh,
having it? And I'm also with the project, the initiative that I have in my mind, I started doing that, and I even created my lean canvas and everything, as you were saying. And there were some learnings that I found, and I was so surprised. And I was, for example, you were saying that, I don't have it clear, but that if it's a new product, you will be pivoting a lot. And I was feeling like, oh, I started, my buy me a coffee, and I called it Agile Toolbox. And I already said it in few videos that there is this new thing that I'm doing, please sign up. And then I'm like, oh, now I want to call it Collaboration 2.0. I think this is a more fitted name. And then I'm like, this is stupid. Now I already started, but now I'm changing. And you gave me this, like, no, relax. It's okay. It's how products evolve, right?
yeah, that's called learning.
Yeah.
It's learning. If I, for example, would look at my articles I wrote 2 years ago, probably I have a different view right now because it evolved, and it's okay. It keeps evolving. So it means
Yeah.
that we are learning. And any product you are bringing to the market, big chance your first idea is not what is going to become your final product, because you learn from people and you realize actually what they want to learn is something different. When I started with the product discovery cohort, I had the impression that people wanted to learn how to apply product discovery. Up to a certain extent, that is true, but that was not their biggest pain. Their biggest pain was another question: how do I gain support from management? So I had to
Right.
incorporate that. And once I incorporated that, I could see better results because I don't give the cohort for people just to learn something and forget about it. I got better stories. People learn the key things. How do you get support? And then they start applying that. But I didn't know this question. It was not even in my mind. How do I gain support from management? It was like, obviously, you need to do product discovery. So every
Mhm.
executive should support that. It's not like this.
Oh, yeah, that's very interesting. It's just, I really recommend everyone to read the book. It's so full of insights. As you see, we could be talking forever about it. I still have some questions, but we are at the time. Um, so I think this is really good finish for the podcast. What you just said, that I think it's really important that we relax from it has to be perfect. It's the final product. You have only one chance of getting it live. And what you are saying, that you learn from customers, from your clients, from your participants, and then you pivot. And it's also, I think, hugely important what you just said. I see also so many people doing the workshops or doing mostly the learning paths, just like, this is what there is, you get what you want. I don't, it's not my responsibility that you learn. And I see that you are totally the opposite. You really want people to learn. You want them to share stories. You want to empower them at their work to do better and to be able to, in the end, I think it's also about the satisfaction from the job, right? Fulfill your
Yeah,
potential, get satisfaction, and be happy to work where you do, because you see that you are improving, you are learning, and your ideas are appreciated, and you're actually making a difference. So I think that's really fulfilling.
that's good to hear. And that's the idea I want to drive because I started with untrapping. I got some criticism on that. Some people said, hey, you are assumed we are trapped. What if we are not? Actually, you are. You just may not even know which trap is biting you. So I say, like, let's face reality. And there's always something we can improve. So I gave a bunch of ideas there, many things that happen with me. And I want people to look and say, it is normal to happen these things. And then you can always decide, do I want to accept or do I want to try one thing at a time, making a little bit better? Because then we start having more fun, gaining energy, and it's a quick wins, right? So you make something better here. You have a bloated backlog, then soon you manage to have a lean backlog. That's cool. So you see something here, something there, and so on. So that's what I tried with this book. It's truly about empowering people because I was, and many times, actually ill-equipped for the job. I didn't know how to do what I should be doing. And sometimes I contributed to trapping teams. And then I learned that. And it got even better, my job, once I started getting away from that. It was fun. And I would go to work. And it was not like this dragging thing. Oh, I need to work today. It was fun. I need to do something cool today. And then tomorrow and tomorrow. Monday was not boring. It was exciting.
I was just thinking about it, that it's like on bringing back the magic of a Monday, right?
Yeah,
Not only
exactly.
Fridays are cool, now Mondays are cool again.
Yeah.
Mondays are the new Fridays.
Yeah, that's cool. I like doing things with the team and seeing like, hey, what are we gonna create this week? And we would go with energy, saying like, hey, by the end of the week, what do we have? We would start like that. So we weren't saying like, oh, we have a week sprint, so what is this sprint go for this week? No, it's like by the end of the week, what have we achieved? Let's have this conversation. And we would start from there and then we would move. But these things took time. I was also planning by capacity. I was doing all of the things, and all the other patterns you can imagine. Probably I was part of them.
But that's precisely, you just made me think about one more thing. Um, I was listening to the podcast of the Huberman Lab, and I'm now trying to find out the Dr. James Hollis. And he was talking about this kind of, we always see this great picture of other people. We think that by 40, we will have this perfect family, great job, we will be so fulfilled, flowers grow everywhere. And we forget that, and that's also what we think, the job will be awesome, we will be fulfilled. And then you go and you crash with the reality and you see that, oh, people are doing all this kind of discovery and great stuff, and my job, we just have features. People have these great families and partners, and I had just got divorced. So we crash with the reality because we don't know. People rarely share those real stories like you did, and people rarely realize, like, no, we not all win. We also fail. It's
Yeah,
just a matter of, okay, I failed, but I will try better next time, right? And I think this is so relevant for your book, and I think you as a person, you share that a lot. You share your failures, you share how ill-equipped you were. Like, I imagine this young David PO that was there and didn't really understand why he's a PO and not a PM, and you tried and you found your way out of it. And I think this is really, it is really important for, and really resonates with people, because we all feel that, yeah, we are not working in the perfect company, we are not the perfect employee, and our leadership is not perfect either, but we can still do something and change it, right?
Yes, that's one thing that I learned. In the past, I used to compare myself to the others and say, "Hey, exactly as you said, there's this cool thing happening to that person. It's not happening to me." And then I realized that I was transforming myself into a victim. But then someone gave me one advice, which I will never forget. The person told me, "Hey, you are doing great. Just compare yourself to who you were last year." And now I have a different opinion. I look to the David of a few years ago and I say, did I improve? Do I like what is happening? So I always compare to myself. And the truth is, I came from Brazil, low middle class family, with a collection of cousins and uncles and aunts. Like in total, I have more than 100 cousins first level,
Oh my
28
God.
uncles and aunts. It's a very big family and many things and so on. Many people telling me you can't do that, you're not good enough, and so on. So I came from all of this. But my parents always told me, as long as you are humble and you respect the others, you can do whatever you want. It's up to you if you want to put the energy into that. And I kept with this and I was moving from all of this place. And then I started always comparing. Okay, in the beginning, I was just there in my hometown in the middle of the mountains. Nobody knew. Until the age, I don't know, of 15, I didn't even know what a cinema was. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know McDonald's, all this stuff and so on. I was in the middle of nowhere. Then I went out of the woods and then I started seeing different things and so on. So I always compare like who I were yesterday and who I am today. And sometimes I don't like the change, so I adapt. So that's the most important. Look
Mm.
at your scenario because context matters. No one has the same. Look at your scenario, say, what do I want to see? And then act on yourself. And then things will happen.
That's great. And I think that's a second book coming in in what you just described. Thank you so much. Really interesting. Really happy to have this chat. We haven't seen. We actually had one. We saw each other once face to face in Vilnius.
Yeah.
It was great. And it also makes such a difference, right? When you really see the person
Yeah.
3D or 4D. Okay.
True.
So thank you so much. Really enjoyed this, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.